G'day guys, welcome to the weekly ASX review for this Friday afternoon, the 18th of October 2019. Let's get straight into it. It was, well, the week ended up for the XJO, the top 200 stock up 0.65% to close at 6,649.7. A week of two halves. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday were all positive. Thursday, Friday, not so much. So anyway, the market did end up, it was, as I say, a roller coaster ride. I thought it was interesting, and I'm going to start keeping track of how many stocks are up and how many are down each week. Interesting to see the market didn't move a lot up. However, nearly 2/3 of the stocks were up. So I'm not sure what sort of information we can garnish from that, but maybe over time a pattern may emerge. So I'll keep track of the up and down stocks. So 123 were up this week and 69 were down and 8 remain unchanged. Now let's get into the winners and losers. The top 5 winners. NEA, which is Nearmaps, interesting little business. They ended up 17.06%. I remember looking into these a few months ago and I didn't do anything with them, but I remember they caught my interest, and I'll have to look at them again. IOOF, which I have been trading for about the last month. I bought them at $5.50, and I sold them yesterday, unfortunately, on open at $6.65, and they kept going up. But anyway, they put on 16.61% just for the week. CYBG put on 14.42%. Challenger, CGF, put on 13.27%, and Fisher and Paykel up nearly 10% to finish at 17.55 for the week. Just to look at a couple more closely, IOOF, as I said, I had a trade on them. My trade with them was sort of a bet against APRA. I'm not a fan of APRA. I won't use too strong a language, but I think they're unnecessary. They really are unnecessary. We have ASIC there to take charge of companies, including the banks, and APRA are like a big brother, nanny state, sort of protecting everybody from themselves regulator, which I really despise. So good to see APRA lose a case. Unfortunately, Scott Morrison is giving him more money, so I'm not sure what his thinking is behind that. But anyway, I won't go into it anymore. APRA lost their case against IOOF, and they announced that they won't appeal the decision. So IOOF share price has done really well because of that. APRA aren't good at winning cases, similar against Westpac recently. But anyway, that was IOOF, maybe one to keep an eye on for the future. And the other one I wanted to look at, I'm looking at the chart here, was CGF. Now, as you can see by that chart, they've been in a downtrend really for the last, well, since the start of 2018, so nearly 2 years now. They got up as high as, I think it was about $14 around that mark, and now they're sitting, I think it was $7.70 as of close yesterday. They got down, I think, to the high sixes more recently. As you can see, that line there is the 500-day moving average, which I quite like, just to see where the trend is going. As you can see, over the last 10 years, the trend has been quite positive for this stock. Now, I haven't looked at this stock lately, and I will do so just to see if there's a potential longer-term buy on CGF. But as you can see, it's gone below the 500-day moving average, and it is looks like it may be consolidating there. I don't really know. Now, I don't buy based on charts. Sometimes the chart will just give me some inspiration to look at the company more closely, and that's sort of what's going to happen with CGF. They come up in the winners for the week. I had a quick look at this chart just to see what they had been doing, and now I'll investigate further the fundamentals of the company. Perhaps, I don't know, perhaps they could be one for the longer term portfolio. Okay, so that is the winners. Now let's have a quick look at the losers. And topping the list this week is SSXL, which is Southern Cross, down 22%. They're not a share I followed too closely. but I think I did read that their advertising has been pretty soft. So they had quite a big fall. I think most of that was in one day. They may have even recovered slightly from that day. Now the second one is interesting. Afterpay, a market darling, and down 15% for the week. I'll look at that a little more closely in a minute. NST, which is Northern Star, down 14%, all around the gold price, and a little less volatility with the trade wars simmering down this week. But who knows what will happen with that. CUV, who were our biggest gainer last week, up 40% for the week last week and down 13% this week, which puts them up. They're up roughly 20% for the last 2 weeks. So still a good gain, but a lot of their gain has been given back since they had a big day, which was maybe last Tuesday, Wednesday. So yeah, they're interested to see what happens with them. And the last one, another market darling, which is Wisetech, WTC. A really, really interesting stock at the moment. They got hammered, and I'll look at the story. Actually, let's just go to that before we talk too much. Firstly, we'll look at, I don't know, Wisetech is first. So on Thursday, it says in this story from the Financial Review at 11:37 on Thursday, J Capital Research accused the $10 billion ASX tech titan of overstating its profits and revenues. At 12:18 p.m, the ASX put Wisetech into a trading pause while it sought further information from the company. A full trading halt was granted at 1:41 p.m, and as of close of trade today, Friday the 18th, it is still in a trading halt. So J Capital Research has accused Wisetech of overstating its profits and revenues. Overstating, lying, I guess is another word for that, which is a pretty heavy accusation. These research companies do have a lot of power, and sometimes you've got to question their motivation in criticising a company when they've got that power. I'm not sure what ASIC do about it, to be honest, but if you have the ability to affect the share price by what you say, you would think that they would really look closely at what that company had been doing with those shares before they said anything, if you follow my drift, because they could be taking advantage of that power. And I don't even know if that's against the law. Perhaps it's not, but perhaps it should be. But anyway, that's what's going on with Wisetech. So it'll be interesting, really interesting to see what happens next week with Wisetech, what they come out with, and what the share price does in response to their response. So Wisetech, as I've said before, they're a stock I've followed for quite some time, and I do like them from when they were. I didn't see them float, but since they're about a $6 share, I've been in Wisetech. So I personally like them. So we'll see what happens with them. And the other one, which is another of the wax stocks, I don't know if you've ever heard that term. It's only one I've sort of been introduced to in the last few months. Wax meaning the Wisetech, now I've got a name, don't I? Appen, Afterpay, what's the other A? Altium, and of course Xero is the X. The five sort of big tech stocks on our market, sort of in comparison to the FANG stocks on the American market. So Wisetech and Afterpay this week, two of the wax stocks have been hit pretty hard. Again, by a investment bank this time, predicting that buy now, pay later juggernaut Afterpay share price will halve within a year thanks to looming regulatory risks. The investment bank initiated coverage on the company with a sell rating. UBS called out Afterpay's business model, which prohibits merchants from passing on costs of the service to customers. It suggests this could attract regulatory scrutiny because by shifting the cost of financing from consumers to merchants, it arguably creates a distortion which could significantly influence consumers' choice of payment method. So, interesting point. I mean, that's their whole Afterpay model, is that the consumer doesn't pay, the merchant pays. So if that ability was taken away by the regulators, and I don't know if there's any suggestion that it will be, but that's what UBS is saying might happen. Then that would obviously disrupt their whole business model and could cause a lot of concern for their shareholders. So again, it's going to be interesting what happens, but they have been smashed the last few days, Afterpay, and they have been a market darling. They're one I've sort of just sat back and watched. Being in the finance game myself, I've always sort of wondered why the regulators haven't been more involved with this company, and they sort of just had a free hit for quite some time. Without, it appears, I'm sure in the background there has been scrutiny, but nothing really public coming from the regulators, and nothing derisive anyway from the regulators. So the reason I stayed out of Afterpay and will continue is that there was a lot of blue sky built into this price, and I personally think the market has sort of ignored a lot of the regulatory risks, and and I've missed out on obviously a cracking stock for the last few years because of my concerns, and so far I've been wrong. But who knows? As I say, I'm just happy to stay out of these ones and just sit back and see what happens. Okay, so that's the winners and losers. Now, I stole a bit off the CommSec YouTube channel. There isn't a lot really going on of interest in the next coming up week. That's Australia. You can read that there. What's going on? Nothing excites me too much, and that's overseas. Again, there's so much data that comes out, and it comes and goes, and some is of interest, and some isn't. And like I say, you can sort of make up your own mind there what you think will affect our market here. But I mean, you do sort of have to stay, just broadly in touch with world affairs, to relate how they will affect the Australian market here, in that context anyway. So anyway, that is the week ahead, and that is it for this video. I tried to rush through it, and I've still taken 12 minutes. Where does the time go? Anyway, it is Friday afternoon, maybe Friday night by the time you see this video. Have a fantastic weekend. Weather is beautiful. I'm going out riding on my motorbikes this weekend, and I don't know what I'm going to do really. I'm just looking forward to the weekend. So have a good one, guys. I'll try and I tried to get a video up during the week, but it's just been so busy. I know everyone's busy, but this particular week I've been selling a few motorbikes, and amongst everything else, just haven't had the time to sit down and do a video during the week. So I'm going to try it next week. Obviously, I'll definitely be here next Friday to the end of week video. I'll try and get one in the meantime as well. Just I want to do 2 a week if I can possibly do it. No worries. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.